Hey everybody, Danielle Hargenrader here, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Today, I'm excited, as always, to bring you another amazing human being who is finding her way, living happy and healthy with diabetes. I'm going to read you her bio, and we're going to get right into the story. Meredith Marple is the author of 50 Ways of Self-Love and a self-love empowerment coach. When she's not out exploring her new dream city of San Diego, she gives online advice and training to her community of over 35,000 people. Meredith was 14 years old when she was misdiagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and eventually it landed her in the hospital with life-threatening DKA, and for those who don't know, that's diabetic ketoacidosis. She was properly diagnosed with type 1 at age 18, and since then she has been on a path of self-education around the psychological effects of major medical diagnosis. By sharing her personal insight through her own life and soul experiences, she has become an advocate and leader in the self-love industry, teaching others how to take real-world pain and dream and turn it into power and purpose. So, thank you for joining us today, Meredith. How are you?
Thank you. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit here and talk with us and share your story, because personally, I think it's an awesome story and inspires me, and I'm sure it will inspire many. So as we always do here, we kind of just want to hear about your story. And it was a great biography there, but I want to hear a little bit more details. So why don't you kind of walk us through, in your experience, what was it like to be misdiagnosed with type 2 and what seems like a pretty big gap in between actually getting the proper diagnosis of type 1, and kind of the path you've traveled from then till now, which could be anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, actually, my story with diabetes began before my actual diagnosis at 14. I have family members who have been diagnosed with type 1 and type 2. And when I was about probably 11 years old, my Uncle Jerry, he has type 1, and he did not take care of himself properly. He was drinking a lot, and he did a lot of exercise, and he'd always plummet and everything. And one morning, my mom and I, it was during the summer, we were on our way to her ballroom dance studio, and we were going to pick up my uncle, and he wasn't coming to the door. And my mom started freaking out, and she was calling 911 because she was scared something was going on with his diabetes. And so we were able to knock down the door, and we found my Uncle Jerry just laying on the ground, and he was seizuring. And so we were trying to just do our best to get like orange juice in his system. We didn't know what to do really. And so I'm like sitting here as a young girl, and I'm thinking, wow, diabetes is death. Like, this thing is actually killing my uncle. And it was this like first traumatic experience I ever had with diabetes. So then fast forward a few years, I'm sitting at 14 years old, December, and my doctor, like at this time, I was urinating a lot. I was drinking so much water. I'm sure everybody has similar experiences, you know, with all of that, the symptoms and stuff. I even, you know, my breath smelled like Fruit Loops. I had so much sugar in my blood. And they tested my blood sugar, and I came out somewhere over 700. And I think what had happened, I was over 200 pounds at this point as a teenager. And I think they took one look at me and they're like, oh, she's type 2. And there were no further tests, nothing about, like, isn't there something like
That's disturbing. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So the C-peptide test, where you can get that tested to see what your pancreas is actually up to, whether, and that helps you differentiate between type 1 and type 2. And it's, I want you to continue, but it's just so disturbing. And one of the things that we keep, you know, as people advocating for diabetes awareness, trying to fight in the, you know, in the healthcare practitioner field, is to don't assume that something is something until you actually take the tests. It's just disturbing. But yes,
exactly.
Please continue.
Yeah. So, and I remember this one story I heard from this woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer, how you hear that word and you can't remember anything else from that day. Like, you can see the lights are in the ceiling and you're looking at your feet on the floor, but you can't hear anybody. And that's kind of what I went into, that mentality, because as far as I knew, diabetes was death, and I was getting a death sentence. And, you know, my mom at the time, she was with me. She was like, oh, it's not type 1. You can cure it. It's fine. And I'm like, oh, yay. But then, you know, within 24 hours, I went home, and I was, you know, where I was a normal teenager, suddenly 24 hours, I was not. I was having to change my diet, my lifestyle. I didn't know I was just very confused and overwhelmed about how many times I had to test my blood sugar, getting school nurses, on board with my diagnosis, just everything that goes into that. And between 14 years old and 18 years old, it was a very big struggle with the hospital that I went to and got treatment at. They were pretty much convinced that I wasn't taking my medications. And at the time, I was only on 15 units of Lantus per night. And then I was taking 2,000 milligrams of metformin. But my blood sugars were still 200s, 300s, 400s, and they weren't going down. They're like, well, are you drinking diet sodas? Are you eating more salads? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm trying here, but my blood sugars won't come down. And it's really hard even because I'm a teenager. I'm going through tons of hormones. My menstrual cycles are so off. Like, just everything was so erratic. And I got to this point around the age of 16 or 17, and I just said, fuck it all. I was like, these medications aren't working for me, so I might as well not take anything. And I just started living in denial, started eating whatever I wanted, went back to sugared drinks, everything. And then when I was 18, I had thought I got the flu, and I couldn't walk. I had to crawl to get out of my bedroom to tell my mom. I was like, something's wrong with me. Like, in that instant, there's only been a few times in my life where I've gotten to that point and I was like, I'm going to die and I need medical help. And she rushed me to the hospital, and I was immediately put into the ICU. I had so many fluids going in. And I remember the doctor saying to my mom that if she had waited until the morning to bring me in, I would have been either dead or in a coma. So I was in very bad shape. I was over 50 pounds dehydrated from water weight. Really, really sick.
Yeah. And it's just, to me, again, just to reiterate, it boggles my mind just from a standpoint of logic and common sense. Like, I understand I'm not a doctor. I say that every time, but I do teach people about health. I'm not a certified diabetes educator, but I am a diabetes educator. My degree is in nutrition. I'm a certified personal trainer. I've studied anatomy and physiology to endless extents because I love it and it's fascinating and I'll never stop. That professional doctors for 4 years would not have the wherewithal to just conduct one other test, and that it has to get to that point where you are about to die so that a hospital unit can say, oh, duh, this chick has type 1. It's just mind-boggling. So yeah, so obviously at this point you are in a state of, like you said, F it all. And so I guess, how did things change for you after your actual type 1 diagnosis?
So after I was finally put on Novolog, all of the good stuff that we got to get going, actually about 2 years after that, I finally got my first Dexcom because I had what do they call that? Hyperglycemia unawareness, and also
hypo. Yep.
Yeah, hypo. And then I had really bad insulin resistance. And so I had this amazing endocrinologist in Albuquerque, and she helped me with diet. She helped me exercise. Like, anytime I was having issues with my insulin pump, maybe getting too much insulin during a workout, I could go to her office and she'd just do the numbers that she does. And it was perfect. And I felt so good. And actually, a lot of my depression that I had felt as a teenager, I wouldn't say it was cured, but a lot of it was alleviating, like, off of the side and melting away, kind of, because I didn't realize how bad my physical health had affected my mental health. And so it's been a journey since then. Things still aren't perfect, but I believe it's all about the actions you take to just make the progress. And, I'm doing my best. I'm still working with professionals. And yeah, my numbers are, doing better. I have all the equipment that I need, but as we talked before, like 2 weeks ago before this interview, I have this philosophy that even when we're people who help others, like experts at whatever we do, we're still going to struggle in some aspects. And although my industry is personal development and self-love, self-care, stuff like that, I do struggle with diabetes at times. And I think a lot of us do. And so what I'm going through right now is yesterday I was actually diagnosed with diabulimia and just bulimia by itself. And it was shocking, but I'm actually really excited to get the diagnosis, unlike when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, because now I've learned, especially with my experiences of being in the mental health education field and diabetes and everything else that has been going on, it's good to get an answer. It can be overwhelming, but it at least gives you a direction of where you need to head. And so I'm really excited. I'm gonna be getting help from specialists and doctors and just everything all around. So I'm really excited to get some attention on my medical needs, which I feel like I haven't really had before. And I'm just going to soak it all in. So,
yeah. And I would say, you know, from my own standpoint of being an advocate of self-love and kind of just always teaching it and preaching it, so to speak, I think what you're doing right now is the most honorable and inspirational thing that you can possibly do from someone who is always going to be in recovery from an eating disorder and who sits on the board of a We Are Diabetes, eating disorder recovery for people with diabetes. Getting the help that you need, accepting it, and even taking it a step further where you're excited about opening up that new chapter. You're saying, I'm done with this chapter. I'm ready to start moving forward into a new chapter. I think it's amazing. And I also want to kind of agree with what you said about professionals and coaches, like people like me. I always say coaches have coaches. I have a strength coach when I do strength training. I have a business coach when I need help taking my business to another level. I have people all the time that are mentors to me that I can go to, people that I pay money to keep me on track. And I just think that if there's any professional coach out there that says that they don't need a coach, you should probably look for
get your money
coach.
back.
Yes,
exactly.
get your money back, because that person is not practicing what they preach. You have to be it so they can see it. You know, you have to live by example. You can't just say all these things. But I really want to talk about the self-love. So I don't know if you have a copy of your book there now. I will link to it underneath the interview and all that stuff. But I want to know kind of your journey into self-love. Okay, I'm going to switch back to you now. So tell us about your journey into actually really kind of A, acknowledging that self-love was missing, B, acknowledging what that was creating in your life, and then going the next step to saying, I'm going to become, I am, and maybe you didn't say I'm going to become a self-love expert, but becoming one in the fact that you wrote a book about it, you coach people about it, and you have a huge online community that follows you for your information about self-love. So kind of tell me a little bit about that journey, because I think it's just amazing.
Well, self-love, there are so many things I could say about it. Okay, so besides diabetes going on in my life, which we already know can actually leave a traumatic type of emotional experience for people, plus physical, I had my first midlife crisis actually at the age of 11. And at this time, from like 5 years old to about 10 years old, I don't know if I should put a trigger warning with all of this with my story, but I was sexually molested from a neighbor growing up for about 5 years. And then when I was 11, I knew my dad was so weird. Like something was kind of off with him. And so this one time when he was at work and I got home from school, I was like, I'm going to investigate. And I went all through his room, tore up his room, went underneath his bed, in his cabinets, everything, trying to find for like something. And I finally walked into his closet, which was usually locked, but that day it was open. And I went inside of it. And just as I was about to give up because I didn't find anything, I saw this duffel bag out the corner of my eye. And I was like, that duffel bag has the answer. And I opened it up, and it was love letters from the guy he's now married to. It was pictures of them on like gay cruises. And at this time, he was still married to my mom. They weren't divorced yet. And so I kind of stumbled. I was literally standing in my dad's closet, finding out he was a closeted gay man. And it was so shocking, especially at that age, because he had taught us so many things about morals and values throughout life, and that you don't lie, and, you know, all of that. And I don't know, like, over the course of a few months, I had ended up going into this mental process of thinking, like, logically, if my dad had been vulnerable and honest enough with people in his life and could have gone down a different journey, he could have been true to himself, he wouldn't have ever married my mother, and that meant I wouldn't have ever existed. So why did I exist? What was the purpose of my life? Why was I here? And I was angry, I was confused, and then put in mental and emotional abuse from the family, sexual abuse in my past, severe bullying from people in school, just all of these things going on. I was going down a very destructive path, and I didn't know how to cope with a lot of things. And by age 15 or 16, I ended up attempting suicide, because what these girls who bullied me, what they didn't know is that I was already in a very depressed state and suicidal. And one day they had sent me this letter, like in class, where they were telling me I should kill myself. It'd be a favor I'd be doing for everybody. I was going to be alone anyway, so I might as well do it. And I went home that day, and as I was driving home, I was thinking, okay, can I drive my car at full speed into a tree and die? And I was like, no, can I find the edge of a woods and maybe like tumble my car down it? And so when I got home, I was like, well, I'm not going to ruin my car and leave my parents with that type of stuff. I'll just take all of my diabetes medications. I'll take all of my antidepressants and my sleeping pills. And I just started taking handfuls of them. And after that, after about 10 minutes, I just started freaking out, and I let my mom know what I did. And from then on, I was a risk to myself. I went into a mental hospital for about 2 weeks to try and get specialists and help on that. And fast forward to a few years after that, I was like, gosh, if I don't find a way to love myself, because I hated myself so much that I wanted to kill myself, I was going to die if I didn't find self-love. And so I went on this journey of just trying to not fix myself, but accept the pieces of me that did need some healing and mending. And I finally got to this point where I was introduced to the internet. Finally, I got my certification in life coaching. And I just started using my Instagram as a way to connect with people, because I also see pain a lot differently, I think, from most people. I don't see it as something that we should hide, or pain is something that we shouldn't pay attention to. And, you know, all this woo-woo stuff of let's put a Band-Aid on everything that we feel and just think positively. There are benefits to thinking positively and trying to change mindset and beliefs. But I was looking at my pain as something as it was a driving force to connect myself to others, because we have a lot of deep core wounding going on, and it's not being exposed enough. It's not being talked about enough. And in the self-love industry, I just started seeing some gaps that I wanted to fill and talk about. And so on my Instagram, I just started being as honest as I could and talking to people about my current struggles or my, you know, philosophies and what I've learned from my experiences. And it just organically grew from like 42 people that I knew from Facebook up to 35,000 of what I do today. And I just started focusing on that, and I wrote my book. It's right here, 50 Ways of Self-Love.
Love it.
And it's been a gift. It really has. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, and your book actually has been a gift. I just gifted it to my best friend, and she's reading it and enjoying it very much. And I just have to say, just listening to you tell your story, which I knew bits and pieces of before, but not details. Your vulnerability and your willingness to share your pain, as you said, is one of the most beautiful things. I've always been of that same mindset. I talk openly about all the things that have hurt me in my past. My sister being a heroin addict, my father dying of a heart attack, eating disorder and depression and all of these other things. I think that these are the things that need to be talked about. And that's why I do what I do as a diabetes and health coach. We don't just talk about nutrition, because you can go on any diet and go on any fitness routine, but if your mind is still stuck in the past about all of those things that may have happened to you, all of those things are going to be fleeting. And it's getting to the source of the issue is what's going to help fix it. And I mean, actually, I hate the word fix, help repair or heal the feelings that you have that are negative around that situation. Because I just don't think that perfect or anything is necessarily in need of fixing. It's just in need of attention. And the fact that you're willing to give that attention and inspire so many other people to give themselves that attention, it's just everything. It really is. And I just, Meredith and I actually never met in person. I don't even think. We kind of know each other from, one of our mentors, Brendan Burchard, and business mentoring and things like that, and knowing that we have diabetes. But I've always felt connected to you through your posts, through your Instagram. I've been following you, and it's funny because you say the same thing about me, and you just never know, like who you're inspiring, because I'm inspired by you all the time, like every day. So it's just amazing. And I know that, you sharing that out loud is opening up the pathway for other people to heal. And that is everything. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's for people to go out there, share their stories, be vulnerable, be willing to say, yes, I've been through some shit and it was not pretty. And I'm still dealing with the aftermath of that. And guess what? Here I am, still functioning, still being a part of society, still living and breathing and all these other things. And you can too. And I think that that's really kind of where it kind of comes full circle, is that you can too, no matter what.
Exactly.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I mean, feel free, because I love listening to you talk.
Well, I was just going to add, I think with the vulnerability aspect, people see it as this thing that may make us weak, or I think that perception is kind of altered because maybe we do feel weak in the moment, but it just like self-love, it's not this destination. It's not anything except for a practice and a way of living your life. That's it. And I think when we come up with a lot of health issues, or we have to seek out therapy or talk to someone about what has been going on in our life, because there's always going to be something that has kind of fucked us up in some way. That's just kind of how it is. Even our parents, like we could have had the best parents growing up ever, but they could have said something or done something, or could have witnessed something that just kind of changed the direction of our course. And I've just noticed with vulnerability and this whole deep core wounding and things that, you can track throughout your own life stories, that when we become afraid of our own personal struggles and our own suffering, it's when we struggle with those or become afraid, we're resisting and we're not growing as people anymore. But by going through it and healing through it is what actually grows us and builds us, and it builds our character and our strength. And I don't see vulnerability as this act of courage anymore. It's become such a practice in my life where I feel like it is just me doing me. It's just a way of living. And I'm really glad I've been able to teach others that. So it's been an honor. So
yeah. And I have to say, with the diabetes thing too, the vulnerability, and I talk about this constantly, is that those of us living with a chronic disease that requires 24/7, 365, no breaks, one false move and something major could go wrong, we often feel like this burden on other people that love us or may want to help us, and that we see this vulnerability or wanting to ask for help or support as a weakness, where I see it now from coming from the other side of that and used to having had that mindset about it. And now asking for help anytime I need it, now reaching out anytime I need it to anyone, whether it's somebody in the diabetes community or my husband or my mom or whatever the case may be, because I think the strength is in admitting that we need the help and then getting it. That's where the true strength lies. And I think that that's for diabetes, and that's for anything. That's for, any part of life. So I just think it's amazing. And everybody should definitely go get 50 Ways of Self-Love, because I haven't read it yet. straight up, I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to read it. I've already sent it to my friend who I know is in need of it. And I'm very excited to check it out myself. So yeah, so we're going to, even though I know I could sit here and talk to you forever, because you have many, many valuable things to say, we're going to kind of bring it close. So why don't you share with us what your top 3 tips for living happy and healthy? We could say with diabetes or living happy and healthy in general, because with or without diabetes, happiness and health are kind of the most important things in life.
Exactly. Exactly. So I actually have this formula. It's called the ACT formula. And I did this because one of my favorite quotes from you that you shared on the Diabetes Dominator Facebook page is you said, "The bottom line is knowing isn't enough. We need to do. We are all full of knowledge that we don't choose to put into action." And I really freaking love that. So I was like, okay, so you have to take actions to make yourself healthy, happy, stuff like that. So the first one is A, definitely advocate for yourself and your health with professionals, nurses, just anybody. You have to be able to really speak up about your pain and give it validation. I think there are a lot of professionals still, even just family members or anybody, that can try and downsize your pain, even though you're like, I know my body, something's not right. So you have to be able to do that. And in order to advocate for yourself, you have to communicate to your diabetic professionals and definitely to your community. I'm just now finally learning how important it is to talk to other diabetics like you. I'm in a support group now. It gives you a tribe, and it's so primal to all of us, and it helps us to learn from each other. And when you communicate to your doctors as well, I mean, you know yourself the best. Like, they're there to work for you. You don't, like, it's okay. Yes. So definitely communicate. And then the last one is T, track your trends. And I know we've all been told to track our trends, especially with the technology we have with Dexcoms, and we can even be old school and like write down stuff on charts. Why I find that so important is because if we don't take time to check out our patterns, like whether we're sleeping enough, drinking enough water, exercising enough, whatever, if the weather is cold, like everything affects our blood sugars, and it helps us at least understand and become aware right in front of our faces with that visual, information of how our body is going to respond to something. If we need less insulin or more insulin, if we, need whatever. And part of tracking your trends also is tracking your behaviors, your patterns, your thoughts around things, because when we do that, we have finally like access to get more of like a wholesome picture of everything going on. And you can't be perfect. Again, I'm a former perfectionist and I'm still working on it, but it's just about doing your best and really taking charge of your own health and your body.
Yes. Yeah, and I just want to take it a step further, because this is something that I talk about again a lot, is that I like to frame the practice of self-love into that, what you just said, because we often talk about self-love and we say it's a practice and this and that, but then people are like, well, how do you practice? How do you practice? And we don't put these. So when you track your trends, you are literally practicing self-love by giving yourself that attention. By choosing to take the time to track your trends, you are practicing self-love. By choosing to eat nutritionally healthy food for your body that makes you feel good, you are practicing self-love. When every time you're hydrating your body with water, you are practicing self-love, because we don't think about those actions as self-love practices, but they are. They just are. When you're giving your body and your mind the things they need to feel good, journaling, meditation, all these are self-love practices. So, I always tell people, just maybe pick one area, because again, perfect is not a real thing. And the practice of self-love is an ebb and flow, just like everything else. So it's like maybe one week you're like on point. I've been journaling every day. I've been hydrating every day. I'm great. And the next week you're like, whoa, I am like way off road here. That's fine. Just get back on the road and don't lose sight of the road. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Exactly.
If you lose sight of the road, just veer yourself a little bit closer to it sooner than you would have before. It's really not about always being on the right road. So
exactly.
Yeah. So did I cut you off, or do you still have one more? Was that 2?
No, that was 3. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, yeah, I got all caught up. No, that was awesome. So Is there anywhere else? Tell us where we can find you. I am always just, everybody knows, under the YouTube video, I'm going to post this on YouTube. I'm going to post this on my blog. I will literally put every single link that Meredith gives me for ways that you can find her under all of this. But if there's anything particular you want to say now about go here or go there, feel free.
Well, I guess I'll start with the book that is on Amazon. You could just type in my name or the title of the book and I'll just pop right on down. I think it's on sale right now for $13 something.
Cool.
So that's where you can find it. And then I'm on Instagram. It's belong to love, like you belong to it. And I'm on Facebook. My website is coming soon in fall. I have a online self-love AcadeME membership coming out soon, and I'm super busy with that. I'm really excited, and admission starts at the end of August, beginning of September. So
amazing.
That is where to find me soon.
Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me today, sharing your story. I think it was amazing. You've inspired me yet again every time we talk. But so yeah, it's amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. People are responding to what you're doing. You will just continue growing the amount of people who effect for the better. And I will be there watching and hopefully along for the ride during your growth. So
thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yes. Thank everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I will see everybody during the next interview. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.